Okay, in this question, we are given a graph for f of x, and you know this is a parabola, right? And then we are going to answer these questions. And the thing is that we don't have the equation to work with. Everything is depending on this graph. So we have to know how to read the graph and also read the question, of course. First part, it says we are going to evaluate f of 3. So what does this mean? Well, let's review the notation. Y is equal to f of x, right? The number inside of f parentheses, that is the x value. Right here, we know the x value is equal to 3. And our goal is to find out what's the output, namely the y value. So we go to when x is equal to 3. Remember, these are the x values, right? This is the x-axis. When x is 3, we look down to the graph, and we have the y value is -4. And there you have it. The answer here, I will just write it down for you guys like this. F of 3 will give you -4. So once again, the x value and also the y value. And for the next part, we are going to solve the equation f of x is equal to -3. Well, in this case, we don't know what x is. We only know the y value. This right here is the y value. We know it is going to be -3. Well, what's the x value? Once again, let's go to the y-axis this time. And we have y is equal to -3. And you see y is equal to -3 is right here. And we look at the graph. We have this point and that point, isn't it? For this point here, when y is -3, we have this point, and we look up. The x value is +2. So that's the first answer. So let me write it down right here. The answer here is that x is equal to +2. Secondly, we have this point as well. When y is -3, we have this point, and we can look up, and the x value is +4. So there we have it. We actually have two answers, 2 and 4. Okay? And now let's look at this one. We are going to solve an inequality. F of x is greater than 0. First of all, let me ask you guys this. What does the greater than mean? What are we going to do this with the graph? Well, in terms of the graph, right here, whenever we have a greater than, you have to associate that with the portion that's being above. And you see, this is the function, and this is the y value. We want to look for the graph that's above y is equal to 0, okay? Above 0. Well, you see, here is the y-axis, and I should label this right here for you guys. Y is 0. So look at this part of the graph and above it, right? Look at this right here, y is equal to 0, and we want to look for the parts that's being above. Let's see. It seems that we have this portion from here up, right? This is the first piece that we have. That's being above, and I'm doing this in blue, right? And right here, you see, whenever we're doing this, we're looking for the x values. And right here, the answer is going to be, we have x is equal to 1. Anything toward the left of 1, that is going to be x is less than 1. That's the first part. Well, we also have the second part, right? Let me just put down or, because as we can see right here, this portion of the graph is also above 0. And this is the x value 5 or bigger. So the second part is x is greater than 5. And notice that originally this is just a greater than. It doesn't have little line. It doesn't have the equal to, right? Therefore, for this and that, we don't have the little line neither. We don't have the equal sign. And let's review this quickly. For this portion, x is less than 1. It's because anything to the left of 1, this function is above 0. And when x is bigger than 5 or bigger, right? 5 and toward the right, this portion of the graph is also above the x-axis, the 0. And right here, we are done, but we also use the interval notation to write the answer. So let's just do that real quick. I will just do I dot n dot to represent the interval notation. For this part, x is less than 1. It's going to be from -infinity up to 1. But then we are not including the 1. So for the 1, we use the parentheses. Or is the union, and then from 5 to +infinity, right? So we put on 5, infinity, and parentheses, because right here we don't have the equal sign, so 9 including the 5. And for infinity, negative infinity, we use parentheses all the time. Last part, we are going to solve for f of x is less than or equal to 0. Earlier, when we have a greater than, we are associating that with above. Now, this time, of course, when we have a less than, this means we are going to go down below. Below what? Below y is equal to 0. So, y is 0 is right here. We are going to look at the portion that's down below. Namely, is from here to here. And notice that we only have one piece, isn't it? So we only have one interval. And we are looking for the x values, and this is how we are going to write down the answer. Notice that x values are going from 1 to 5, and this is how you can write it down. You can say something like x, it's in between of 1 and 5, right? And remember, whenever you put the x in the middle, you're always going to have the inequalities going the same direction, that way, pointing that way. And because originally we have the equal sign, so right here we also have the equal sign as well. And we are just going to put x, it's in between of 1, so I'm going to write it like this, and less than 5. This is the quick way to write the interval notation when you have an x value, it's in between of two numbers, 1 and 5. And once again, the inequalities are always going to point in that. This means if you look at just this portion, x is bigger than or equal to 1. In the meantime, x is less than or equal to 5. So that means x is in between of 1 and 5, including 1 and including 5. At the end, we are also going to write the interval notation for this inequality. So this is just going to be one piece, right? Therefore, we have 1, 5, including 1, including 5. So square bracket, square bracket. So this is it.